Have you ever stopped and fixed something for someone on your team without even thinking about it? Not because you necessarily wanted to, but because it just felt easier. Maybe you rewrote an email. Maybe you finished a task for them. Maybe you solved a problem even before they had the chance to try. Part of your thought processes was, it's just quicker to do something. It's just quicker to do it myself. Or I don't want them to feel overwhelmed. I completely understand that because caring leaders often carry more than what they should. There is also a saying that says, if you want something done, do it yourself. But here's the question I want us to wrestle with today. Are you actually helping your team grow, or are you unintentionally keeping them dependent on you? Because sometimes what feels like support to you can quietly become overfunctioning or even micromanagement. And over time, that creates exhausted leaders and underdeveloped teams. So today we're talking about how to support people without rescuing them and how to develop others without carrying responsibilities God never intended for you to carry. Let's jump in.
Welcome to the Women of Faith in Leadership podcast, where faith and leadership come together. I'm Rika, Whelan, and each week you'll discover biblical wisdom and practical leadership strategies to help you lead with confidence and honor God in every area of your leadership. Let's get started.
Now, before we go any deeper, if you've ever found yourself thinking, which I know leaders often think is, I need to address this situation with this person, but I just do not know what to say. I want to tell you about the Confident Conversation Blueprint, because one of the biggest reasons leaders overfunction is because difficult conversations feel uncomfortable. It's easier to fix the problem yourself than to have the conversation that would actually help that person grow. Inside the blueprint, you'll find practical scripts, biblical wisdom, and simple frameworks to help you communicate clearly and confidently. Confidence doesn't come from personality. I've said this before. Confidence comes from preparation. So you need to prepare well before the next difficult conversation so that the difficult conversation can turn into a confident conversation. So simply go to womenoffaithinleadership.com/conversations and you will find all the information there about the blueprint. Now, here's what many Christian leaders do not realize. Sometimes our greatest strengths can be our greatest struggles as well. You care deeply, you want to help, and you want people to succeed. You want to be a supportive leader, you want to be encouraging. Those are all beautiful qualities, but sometimes compassion turns into over-responsibility. You care too much, or you start carrying other people's deadlines, other people's emotions, other people's growth, other people's responsibilities. And slowly, you become the person everyone depends on, because without you, they won't survive. That is not the leadership that I want for you. And eventually, you become tired, you become frustrated, you become resentful, and not because you don't love the people. We know that as leaders, the reason we step into leadership is because of Jesus. Jesus loved people even though they were so mean to him, okay? We don't always love all our employees. I know that, okay? But because you just want to make it easier for your employees, you start carrying what is not yours to carry. And meanwhile, the people around you actually stop growing. You do not give them the opportunity to grow because you're just constantly doing their work for them. Because as well, you're avoiding those conversations to help them grow because you really struggle with those difficult conversations. And if we continually remove responsibility from others, we also remove opportunities for growth. So let's talk about 4 shifts to help you as a leader develop people instead of creating dependence. Okay, number 1, support them without rescuing them. There's a difference between helping people and doing everything for them. Support says, I'm here for you, but rescuing says, I'll do it for you. Healthy leaders provide guidance, encouragement, and clarity, but they do not take ownership of someone else's responsibilities. Because growth happens when people learn, when people step out of their comfort zone and do something that they've never done before. But they cannot grow if they are constantly rescued by you. So you need to push people into that uncomfortable zone. You need to push people out of their comfort zone. And sometimes that pushes you into your uncomfortable place. And that's okay, because that means you are growing as well. We all need to step out of our comfort zones and not rescue each other constantly, but give each other opportunity to grow. So strategy number 2 is ask questions instead of providing the answers. You might know the answers already, but if your team member gets to that answer themselves, number 1, they take responsibility for that answer. They take accountability for that answer, and they also take responsibility. So accountability, responsibility, and it creates opportunities. What I should have said, it creates opportunity for them to grow even further. But sometimes the quickest answer just seems like it's helpful, but you should never be the most clever person in the room. Other people should have the opportunity to be clever as well. It sounds really, really simple and easy, but never be the cleverest person in the room. Instead of immediately solving the problem, try asking them, what do you think would work here? How would you approach this? And what options have you considered yet? Jesus often asked questions, not because he didn't know the answer, but because the questions help people think, learn, and grow. Leadership is not always about giving answers. It's about developing thinkers. And John Maxwell says, great leaders or good leaders ask great questions. So instead of just giving them the answer and wanting to problem solve for them all the time, ask good questions, ask great questions, and help them to problem solve for themselves. Number 3, allow people to experience healthy responsibility. Many leaders are afraid that people might fail, so they step in too quickly. But responsibility builds confidence. Remember what I've said before in a couple of episodes ago. The only way that we actually gain confidence in a skill is by practicing that skill. My son at the moment is learning how to tie his shoelaces. How is he ever going to learn how to tie his shoelaces if I do not give him the opportunity to practice tying his shoelaces? So what did I do? I am teaching him how to tie his shoelaces. Every single day I'm giving him the opportunity to tie his own shoelaces. And then yes, maybe in a morning that we're really in a hurry, I'm going to be patient, give him the opportunity to tie his shoelaces, or I might step in and do it for him. But tomorrow, because I've stepped in yesterday, he's going to say, but Mom, you did it for me yesterday because we were in a rush. Can you do it for me again today? So we need to create these opportunities where people can grow and then be patient in them. Okay, if somebody does not get it right immediately, give them another opportunity and another opportunity. Okay, so do not allow mistakes to happen is what I want to say. And remember that mistakes will lead to growth as well. Your job is not to perfect people in every challenge or even protect people in every challenge. It's to help them grow through those challenges. Right, number 4, have conversations you've been avoiding. The only way people will grow is if you actually address the elephant in the room, address the gossip, address the underperformance, address the fact that they're dressing incorrectly, that they're not following the SOP or the dress code, address the fact that they are not implementing the code of conduct. You have to address those things because that's the only way a person will grow. It's also the only way a person will take responsibility for doing the right thing. You have to address the performance. You have to address those expectations, because if you do not, then your team will fail to grow and you will be the leader who sits with an underperforming team. Avoiding conversation never creates growth. However, clarity creates growth. Clarity leads to growth because you are giving them the pathway how to grow. And often one honest conversation can do more for someone's development than months of rescuing them. A good example is one of my first jobs that I ever had as a 20-year-old. I stepped in as an office administrator. I'd never run an office before, but this was an opportunity that I'd received through somebody else. Somebody had heard that I was really good with administration and they were starting up their own business and they needed the help. Okay, so I stepped in and I ran this office for the first time ever. Single employee, and I had my 2 bosses. Okay. I've mentioned this on the podcast before, so sorry if you've heard it before, but it was during a December-January holiday period, and coming back after the holidays in January, I had an attitude problem. I really struggled with my attitude. I had a lack of motivation. I didn't want to be there, but they needed work to be done. It was a training company. They were getting in doctors, nurses, general practitioners, and all sorts of medical staff that needed to receive the training. So they could not deal with an unmotivated staff member. Instead of slapping me over the fingers or giving me a written warning or firing me, which they 100% could have done, they sat me down and they said, Rika, we've noticed a difference after you've come back from the holidays. You seem extremely unmotivated, and we can pick it up in your work ethic. What is going on? And I could share with them that after the holidays that I felt unmotivated. I didn't really want to be there. And I was just very, very honest with them. So they said, look, you've got a choice. You can either find a way to get yourself back motivated to do this job, or you can resign and go and find a different job. We have high expectations of you because we have high expectations of our business. We work with doctors, nurses, and other medical staff, and we do have high standards. So you've got a choice to make. And it really made me think. And you know what? I didn't quit my job. I actually stayed there for another 12 months, but I knew that I needed an attitude adjustment. I knew that if I was not going to pick up the slack or the standard, that I did not have a job there anymore. And to this day, I appreciate that conversation so much with those 2 leaders, because it was probably a hard conversation for them as well. But as a 20-year-old, I needed to hear that. I needed them to talk to my work ethic, because my work ethic was slacking. And to this day, 20 years later, I remember that conversation. It made a really good impact on me. So do not be afraid to address someone's lack of motivation. Do not be afraid to lack someone's to address someone's lack of performance. You need to do it as a leader. It is your role and it is expected of you. Your team cannot grow if you're not willing to address the things that they are underperforming in. Now, if you're listening to this episode and you recognize some patterns within yourself, please know that this isn't about guilt. It's about growth. I'm not guilting you into saying that you have to do those things. I want you as a leader to grow as well. And if difficult conversations are one of those things where you know that you need to grow, go and check out the Confident Conversation Blueprint, because I created it for leaders exactly like you. Leaders who want to grow and learn how to address underperformance, learn how to address a lack of motivation, learn how to address gossip, because those things are part of our role and they are very difficult for us. Confidence does not come from waking up one morning and then feeling confident. That is not going to happen. But what will happen is that you can gain confidence in this skill by preparing and then actually going out and doing it. Does that mean you're going to handle your very first difficult conversation the best you've ever done? No, it does not. Because even if I give you the blueprint, what I'm giving you is the structure to prepare for this meeting. You then have to go and do the meeting and you have to go and practice that skill. But the blueprint helps you to actually prepare for that, so that at least you're not walking into that conversation knowing nothing about what to say. You're unprepared. You're rambling, you've got verbal diarrhea, and you do not even know, that person does not even know why they are there. I don't want that for you. I want you to prepare well. I want you to feel confident within yourself when you go and deal with that conversation. And will you still feel nervous? Yes, you will. I always felt nervous before a difficult conversation. But it does get better the more you practice that skill. So simply go to womenoffaithinleadership.com/conversations to learn more about the blueprint. Now, in closing, I want to say you are called to lead those people. God has called you into this leadership role for such a time as this. And sometimes the most loving thing you can actually do is to step back enough for someone to be able to step forward. Growth does not happen by doing everything for everyone. Growth happens when people are given the opportunity to rise. So lead with wisdom, lead with courage, and lead with healthy boundaries. And trust that God is working not only through you, but through the people that you are developing. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I look forward to chatting with you again in the next one. Bye.
Hey, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If so, would you take 30 seconds and leave me a 5-star written review on Apple Podcasts? It would mean so much to me to read your feedback. Also, it would really bless me big if you shared this episode with a fellow leader who might benefit from hearing today's message. And remember, put on the armor of God daily and walk by faith and not by sight. I'll meet you back on Monday for another episode.